I'm a new teacher at Monroe Street Arts Center. My name is Melanie Gerke. You can call me Miss Melanie or Miss Gerke. Either one is fine by me. So today I'm going to be showing you how to make this bean rainbow. We're going to use different shaped beans and then paint it. You can make a rainbow like I did, or you could make a fun shape like a star. You could make the first letter of your first or last name. It's really up to you, and you can get super creative. I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So let's get started. Let's talk about the supplies you're going to need today. So I am going to be using 3 different kinds of beans. I'm going to use some navy beans, I'm going to use some baby lima beans, and some large lima beans. I chose these beans because they're white, so I know they're going to be really easy to paint, but any color bean will work just fine. I'm also going to be using some acrylic paints. Tempera paint would work okay as well, but today I'm going to be using acrylic. You're going to need a piece of cardboard. You're also going to need a pencil and a scissors. You're going to need a paintbrush. You might want a water bucket to wash your brushes, or you can just use the sink. And then if you have an adult present that can help you, you can use a hot glue gun if you get permission from them and someone's there to help you. If not, you can just use something like school glue or any kind of liquid glue, like tacky glue would also work. You just need to wait a little bit longer for that to dry before you move on to the next step. Okay, let's get started on our project. So our first step is to decide what we want our shape to be. And I think I want to make a big rainbow. And I'm trying to decide if I want it to be kind of like a half circle shaped rainbow, or if I actually want that little space in the middle. So you might want to have some of your beans out so you know the size of things, and that can kind of help you maybe lay out and think about what you want. I think maybe I want like a big thick bean rainbow, and then I think maybe the next row I'll do some smaller beans, and then the last row I think I might do some even smaller beans yet. So I think this kind of gives me a good idea of how big I maybe want my rainbow to be. I think something like that looks good. And maybe I'll end up doing another row of big beans on the inside. Let's see if I have room for that. Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna draw this part of my rainbow, and I can scooch my beans out of the way. Now you can choose a rainbow like I'm doing. It's kind of a simple shape. It's an arch on the outside, an arch on the inside. And then you kind of just draw a line across the bottom here. You could do a star shape. You could do your initial. That would be fun. The first letter of your first name or the first letter of your last name. We just make sure when we draw it, we want it to be 3-dimensional. So my last name is a G, so I could draw a G like this, and I could use that to put my beans on if I want, or I could use this to help me draw a bubble shape around my G so that I know what shape I need to cut out. So you can choose if you want to glue your beans and then cut out your cardboard, or if you want to cut out your cardboard and then glue your beans. For me, I think it's going to be easier to cut my cardboard out first and then glue my beans to my cardboard. So I think that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to get this rainbow shape cut out now. If you're having a hard time cutting out your cardboard, you can either get an adult to help you, or you can just leave your cardboard in a square shape, and you can glue your beans in any kind of design on top of that square. And then you can just paint the background of your square any color you want. So that's another option if you don't want to cut out the shape of your cardboard. Okay, let's start gluing. So I want to do these big ones on the outside layer here. So I'm going to pull my glue gun over here. Whoops. And I'm going to carefully put a little blob of glue down, and then carefully push my bean, keeping my finger away from this part here because it's very hot. Or if you have an adult, maybe they're doing the gluing and you're doing the sticking of the beans. And I'm just gonna lay my beans however they seem to fit. Okay, I'm gonna try to squeeze one more bean at the end here. I think I can make this one fit. I wonder if any of these are smaller. This one looks good. And then I'm gonna start on my next row. So for my next row, I'm gonna use these medium-sized beans. I think I'm gonna put them in like that. Okay, next up, I'm gonna do a row of my tiniest beans. So when you're doing smaller beans, instead of doing one little bit of glue at a time, you can kind of do a little trail of glue, but keep it not too long because your glue will dry, so you have to move really quickly when you do that. Okay, for this last section, since I have a big area, I think I'm gonna use my big beans. But I think I'm gonna lay them out first and see if it makes more sense to have different beans in different areas. Maybe a smaller bean in that corner makes more sense. Another smaller one here. See what fits where. Now that I'm done gluing, we can move on to painting. If you're using hot glue, you'll be able to ready to start painting right away. If you're using the liquid glue, you'll probably have to take a break and maybe come back in a half hour, maybe an hour until your glue's dried. If you were using hot glue, you might want to pull off any extra strings that are hanging around just to make it easier when we go to paint. Let's start painting. So I think I'm going to do my first arch of blue. So I'm going to get a little blue paint on my paper. And I'm going to grab my brush. I'm going to start to paint. And you might have to do more than one coat on your beans. Maybe one coat is enough. I'm going to just try to carefully not get it on the next row of beans, just on this row. And I'm going to try to get the cardboard underneath too. So that's why we've got our skinny brush. So if you need to get in there and get some cardboard details, this little skinnier brush will help you. And you might need to pick it up and maybe kind of come in from this angle and get the underside of your bean. And I'm just trying to carefully paint in these little nooks and crannies. Okay, I'm gonna keep painting. When I'm done with the first row or the first part that I want colored, I can wash my brushes and then move on to the next color. And if you'll notice, I kind of tipped my design and I painted underneath here, and I got kind of in the nooks and crannies as best as I could. It's hard to do, but you just do the best you can. And I got some on the other beads. You can use your finger to wipe it off while it's still wet, or you can just not worry about it because you're gonna paint over the next part next anyway. Okay, so let's move on to my next color. So I'm gonna do some yellow here. And I think I'm gonna start with my small brush since these are such small little beads. Whoops, and I already got some on this bean. That's okay, I'll just wipe it off and move on. so now at the end, if there's some spots where you mixed up or kind of got some paint from another color on a different bead, you can go back and do some little touch-ups here and there. If you don't mind that, you can just leave them as they are. I'm just going to do some little tiny touch-ups of my spots that I got a lot of green on my yellow here, and then I'm going to touch up my blue just a little bit too. When you're all done painting, you're going to want to let it dry for a little bit, but then you can hang it up somewhere special or give it to someone as a gift. Thank you so much for joining me today. I had so much fun, and I hope you had a lot of fun making today too. I can't wait to see you in class. Bye for now.